Hello gamers, I'm Ang and I recently made a video about how Ashes of Creation pulled the rug on its community less than 2 months after the Steam release, basically turning this project into what people refer to as a scam, not from a legal perspective, but from a moral one. During the making of that video, I came across some interesting financial information about this project, which raised a lot of questions in my mind. So I decided to try and answer those questions for myself. And now that I have, I will try and share my findings with you in this video. First things first, for legal reasons, I am not accusing anyone of anything. I will just be showing you the facts, what claims have been made, and the subjective conclusion I arrived at based on the information we have available. You are free to draw your own conclusions. Also, everyone is innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. Everything else is mere speculation or opinion, on my part or yours. All this financial stuff can get complicated very quickly, and the people behind Ashes of Creations are involved with a lot of very shady individuals and a lot of shell corporations. So there are a lot of unknowns. I will try to condense and focus only on the information relevant to Ashes of Creation. Sadly, exploring every rabbit hole would take a full team of investigators multiple months. That being said, we will follow the money and see where it leads us. However, before we jump in, we need to take a look and understand the reality of the game, because understanding the context is vital. If you are already someone familiar with the situation, I will provide timestamps so you can use them to skip the following bit. There's no two ways about it. The game is poor. The world is empty, the systems are few and poorly implemented, and worst of all, everything is disjointed. Technically speaking, the netcode is a complete mess, the clear work of amateurs, especially after so much time in development. The game is obviously far from being a complete product, and nobody can contest that. It feels and plays like a tech demo, something that a small team would make in a relatively short amount of time, before taking it to investors and asking for funding that would be used to develop the various aspects into real functional systems. What the game is today is what the game should have been at the start of the Kickstarter. To be fair, it does have a lot of assets that clearly took time and effort, the models in particular. Considering there is not much to the actual game, I would assume this is what most of their focus was on. While some models, especially those related to player characters, need some love, a lot of the other models are generally good, like the dragons and mounts and stuff like that. If this company goes through insolvency, I would not be surprised if those assets will be purchased by someone and we end up seeing them for sale as packs on the Unreal Engine store or even in another game. In game development, there are certain steps. First, developers create functional systems that work on a small scale, then scale them up, then add models, create a world, then later down the line add textures, foliage and so on. If you've seen footage of a game in development, or if you played games in alpha, you might have often encountered situations where entire maps are just grey boxes. Things are done in a certain order, so development is as fast and as efficient as possible, while at the same time avoiding many unexpected problems that can arise if the proper steps are not taken. The CEO of Ashes of Creation, Steven Sharif, has claimed many times that the game is fully funded by himself and no one else, that the game has no investors or other people involved. If that is the case, the question that remains is, why has development been almost entirely focused on things that can make videos look good and not functional elements that make a game? And we will try to figure out this mystery by following the money. And believe me, this gets as bad as you can expect. The last thing that you need to know is a bit boring, but is the priority of creditors. Basically, when a company goes under, in which priority are people paid? First in the list are secure creditors, those that are owed money, and when they gave that money, certain assets were used as collateral. The second priority are the administrative expenses, such as bankruptcy, trustees and lawyers, account managers, and so on. They are second because without these people the process would be impossible, and nobody works for free. The third is priority unsecured claims. This would be unpaid wages and benefits, government tax, and so on. And then we have the fourth and last category, which is unsecured creditors, basically bills. Now let's see who gave money to Ashes of Creation and who wants it back. The first and highest priority creditor is Yaya Legacy Trust. On 23rd February 2017, months before the Ashes of Creation Kickstarter started, Yaya Legacy Trust entered a $1 million agreement with Intrepid Studios at a 5% interest rate. This deal included an option to invest an additional $1 million and a clause that allowed the trust to convert debt into common stock. In March 2018, this deal was amended to convert common stock in preferred stock, giving the trust a higher priority during a liquidation scenario, like what could happen now in 2026. In March 2019, a year later, because the money was not paid back, Yaya Legacy exercised its conversion rights and became a 4.4% shareholder in Intrepid Studios. The same year, in August, they purchased additional stock worth $2.2 million, bringing their total ownership to 9.7%. This deal suggests that at the time Intrepid Studios was valued between $30 and $40 million. Fast forward, in 2024, Yaya Legacy filed a lawsuit against Intrepid Studios. This was later dismissed without prejudice at the request of Yaya Legacy. The fact that it was dismissed without prejudice means that they can later file it again. But this suggests that Yaya Legacy and Intrepid Studios have reached some sort of agreement. Most would assume more stock, but who knows? It's not public yet. Anyway, from the very first creditor, the claim of self-funding falls apart. But we have to keep going and see what other things we uncover before we draw a conclusion. The next creditor is Karen Boryenko. She filed a lien against all the assets of the company, everything, which means she believes she is owed money more than the company is worth. Sadly, the sum is undisclosed, but we can assume that it is pretty big sum in the tens of millions of dollars, especially considering the company was valued at 30 to 40 million back in 2019, and since then it has taken in a lot more money from backers. You might think this is it, since everything is being split between these two entities, and realistically, even these two entities would not get back their money. Well, theoretically, yes, but there are more entities that Intrepid owes money to. Next is the employees. Allegedly, the employees have not received their last pay. On top of that, Intrepid issued the WARN Act, which basically means they are all fired. Because the studio had more than 75 employees, even if most of them were part-time or remote work, these should have been either issued 60 days in advance or they should have covered 60 days worth of their pay. Basically, the employees are owed at least 90 days worth of pay and benefits, if not a lot more. Surprise, surprise, there's more. Intrepid also owes almost $1 million to a cloud service provider, and even owes tax to the government. There might be a lot more that has not been filed yet. Now, all of this paints a very grim picture, and we will draw a conclusion, but there are a few more things that I have uncovered before we draw this conclusion. In January 2019, 2 years after the successful Kickstarter, Steven purchased a house worth $5.2 million. It's also important to note that this happened only 3 weeks after he launched the failed Battle Royale on Steam called Ashes of Creation Apocalypse, which had a fully functional cash shop. After it was obvious that this Battle Royale was a complete failure, it was rebranded as a combat test. Last year, in November 2025, This property was transferred to a different limited liability company tied to him and his husband for $5.5 million, which, considering the current market, was at a massive loss, as the house is estimated to cost between $7 and $8 million now. This basically can be seen as him shielding his assets, as he knew this was coming. Who knows if the law will act on it, and we will have to see in the future. What is clear is that he knew the downfall was coming, and he still published the game on Steam in a last attempt to get as much money as possible from the community. There have been claims that Steam froze the funds. Sadly, those claims are probably false. The reality is that in January, Steam sent the funds to developers on the 28th. Multiple different developers can confirm this. This was done 3 days before the announcement that Steven is resigning. Steam usually pays its developers through an automatic wire transfer which is irreversible once finalized. There is no reason to believe that Steam froze their funds before anything was announced and for no real reason. What happened with those funds will probably get revealed later. But the reality right now is that Steam is not refunding everyone, just some people, which suggests that they are probably using the funds from February and the 30% cut they take to cover those expenses. If they had all the funds, they would probably refund every single purchase automatically, because managing each and every single refund claim is costly. Anyway, getting back to the topic, I think it's time to draw a conclusion. You can do with this information that I have provided what you will. Please draw your own conclusion. I have drawn my own, but please keep in mind this is not a legal conclusion and I am not accusing anyone of anything. It is just my subjective guess based on the facts I have found. So this is what I believe. In February 2017, he got an investment of $1 million. He used that money to create videos and the Kickstarter campaign. He used the Kickstarter money and focused entirely on making videos for YouTube that showcased a flawed development system, but one that would make those unfamiliar with game development purchase packs. He used that money to make a failed battle royale and convince content creators in various ways, including using a referral program that looks like a pyramid scheme to signal boost his project, which obviously led to massive sales. He kept using this process of making videos and signal boosting the project for as long as he could. All this while taking money from anyone and everyone that was willing to give it to him and saying whatever was needed to get this money. This includes investors and gamers, probably paying himself either a hefty salary or extracting wealth from the studio through dividend distribution. His personal wealth appears to increase significantly throughout this process, but we have to find out more in the future. So, my subjective guess is that he never put any money or very little into this project. He did everything to generate as much money as possible and used few resources on actually making the game. He just made the bare minimum in that aspect. It was all a scam, if you will, in a moral sense from the very beginning. That's it for the video. Feel free to let me know what your conclusion is in the comments. Feel free to like and subscribe or don't. See you in the next one, gamers.